I was traveling around and I saw this sign the other day, and I just thought to myself, this is a perfect representation of the world today. People have become divided for medical reasons, political reasons. Everyone is agitated. But how do we as the preparedness community deal with this new environment of division and frustration? Let's touch on a few things today on this video. I went for an early morning run the other day, and while I was out there, I started thinking about the way the world has become and the separation between people, politically, morally, medically, take your pick. And then I started to look at the bigger picture. What the heck's going on in the background? I crossed a lot of houses and buildings and other projects that were just not complete. The more I dug into this, the more I realized we're still having issues finding wood, finding materials, finding metal, whatever it is we need. It's not just housing, it's all over the map. A lot of people were fixated early on receiving their cheap, goofy, made overseas products, like Elbow the Muppet over here, because we are a good friend, according to him. But in reality, this is the least of our worries. There's more important things we should pay attention to. And then, once we see them, how do we deal with them? This year alone, we've seen a pipeline hack, and we saw some erratic weather literally knock out 3 different types of energy right here in Texas: wind, oil, and solar. Throughout the year, we've seen repeated shortages because of personnel, because of logistics, lack of CDL drivers, meat, produce. It seems like every week we go in, we find something else either missing or it's just not there and just not coming. Even worse, a lot of private landowners, be they landlords or private farms, started going out of business. We're seeing a lot of empty buildings, a lot of dilapidated buildings. There are entire factories right now in various states I visited during my travels that have basically been reduced to what looks like a haunted mansion. Broken windows, graffiti, the smell of urine inside. It's a place for drug addicts, but no production, no people working. And not only are the products hard to find, but when you do find them, the prices are often double and sometimes triple what we saw a year and a half ago. The food and supply chain in general is discombobulated, to say the least. It's actually worse than that. On top of that, people are getting frustrated. There are mandates, there are demands, there are people lashing out. The authorities have recently taken to being very heavy-handed. We've gone from defunding law enforcement to thumping the populace on the head with law enforcement. It not only puts the officers in a bad position, but it just creates unrest. It creates resentment and bad feelings. Now what we're seeing in Europe, Australia, and the US is the populace has exploded. They're tired. They feel betrayed. They feel that the leaders are incompetent. And now we're seeing the riots and the outbursts. So if you're someone like me, you have a job to do. I still have to travel. I still have to get around. So as I go around my business, I try to maintain a situational awareness for myself. But what if you're just starting? What if you're new to this preparedness thing? Where do you start? How do you deal with the coming storm? Start with the basics. Do you have a hurricane box? Do you have an EDC? Do you know what an everyday carry should consist of? Even basic things, having a good backpack, having a variety of ways to carry things you need, first aid kits in your bags, or even flashlights and pocket knives. If they're legal for you to carry and you know how to handle them, start there. Start with a hurricane box. Just aim for a weekend or 2 weeks worth of food, toilet paper, and the amenities you'd need to get by. Think about it, we've had grid down in various parts of the country this last year. Wouldn't it make you feel a lot better if you had one of these little flashlights in your pocket, in your backpack, or even in your purse, and the lights go off in an office building you're working in? Now you're not stumbling around in the dark. Now you're the person who is smart enough to think ahead. Start with fundamentals. Don't lose your mind trying to go and be like someone who's been doing it for 10 years. I'd also recommend everyone start learning how to do things the old way. I've covered this in past videos, but I'm going to cover it more in the future. I highly recommend, and I've been posting regularly both on Insta and on the Tube, tips on how to save money. If you buy in bulk, you'll save money. Then you can meal prep. Do it with your spouse, do it with your loved ones, your kids. Make those meals. Not only are they typically better for you, but you're controlling your little supply chain. You're learning how to cook in bulk, store, and then use. And you're going to save a bunch of money on lunch. Because think about it, if every day you spend 10 bucks on lunch, that's 50 bucks a week, and that's just you. If you buy a large quantity, once you find it, break it up and season it and store it, freeze it. Also, don't forget your pets. Make sure they have enough food, water, and medicine in case there's another disruption. I also highly recommend going to every and any farmer's market you can. Get to know your local suppliers, get to know where other sources are available if your store does not have what you need. The big box stores sometimes get disrupted more so than local chains, so look into it. I'd also recommend, if it's within your budget, start doing things like canning, dehydrating, or even just storing dry products. You don't have to kill your budget, and you don't have to spend the mortgage money doing it. Some people may be selling it on eBay, they may be selling used items that still work. Start there, start cheap, and get to understand how to do it. Being able to dehydrate foods or freeze dry them, or even freeze them in food saver bags for long-term storage, can add to your food supply in the event of a disruption, and it's easy to do. Also, I'd recommend learning some of the basic skills, like baking, because bread gets short too. Practicing how to cook different recipes with the very food you've just saved will improve your confidence, save you money, and will also teach you how to use those preps to create palatable, delicious food at home and spend some time with the family. Sadly, with the increases in stress, angst, and frustration, there's been an increase in drug use, crimes, and abuse. You may have to make a decision to defend your family. I know a lot of people who have bought their first firearm as adults ever. I highly recommend testing different types of firearms at a shooting range and getting competent classes so that you know how to use it under stress. Don't just buy it and leave it in the closet. Get the training and do it within the confines of law so you minimize your own issues. Your mental and physical well-being are two of your biggest assets. Make sure to take time to exercise and reflect and meditate. Find yourself a peaceful place and just think about life. You've got this. Godspeed.